CD versus vinyl. Hey everybody, this is TJR. It's time for another episode of CD versus vinyl. And today we're going to look at Led Zeppelin's Presence album. But before we get started here, I just want to remind you to please click like so that the YouTube algorithm recognizes this channel. Now, recently on this channel, I did a Led Zeppelin comparison wherein I compared Led Zeppelin's Houses of the Holy album. Now, on that particular one, I had a recent pressing of Houses of the Holy. This was from the 2014 remasters. And I compared it to my original CD, which is taken from the Led Zeppelin definitive box set. This set was released by Rhino Records, and it features all the albums in original mini LP replica packaging. It's all sourced from the 90s remasters. And when the 2014 or the 21st century remasters were released, I listened to all of them, but I wasn't all that impressed with them, to be honest. I didn't feel there were any kind of a great improvement over the 90s remasters, so I just stuck with my original box set CDs. I kind of hoped that the LP version, though, would be an improvement over the CD version, and it wasn't. I felt that I liked my original CD better. And after making that video, I had decided that the next time I do a CD versus vinyl and it's about Led Zeppelin, I want to hear a vintage 70s pressing of a Led Zeppelin album, or late 60s, depending on which album I get. At any rate, though, we tend to think of Led Zeppelin as a 70s band, even though their first album came out in the late 60s. But of course, in order to do that particular video, I would need to get my hands on a vintage copy of a Led Zeppelin album. And the other day, I was at the used record store and I found this, Led Zeppelin's Presence. This is a 70s copy here. It was in really great shape. I thought the cover, everything about it was in great shape. Here's the original inner sleeve here. A little bit rough around the edges, but otherwise in pretty good shape. And the record itself was in really good shape. Cleaned it up, played it, thought it sounded really good. And then, of course, I decided, okay, I've got to do my comparison. Now, again, as always, I own the entire Led Zeppelin catalog as part of the Definitive Collection box set. These are all sourced from the 90s remasters. This is my copy of Presence. And as I mentioned earlier, this particular series featured the CDs packaged in original mini LP replica packaging. Everything is perfectly replicated, as perfectly as possible replicated to match what was released when it first came out on vinyl. And here's the CD itself here. They put them in these little sleeves, which I think is always really nice. I think all CDs should be packaged that way with those little sleeves because CDs can slide out of the packages sometimes. But I just thought I'd show you that there. Very cool. This was released somewhere around the mid to late 2000s, but before the new remasters, which came out around 2014 or so. So I listened to these two and I compared them back to back. Now, like I said earlier, I thought that the CD of Houses of the Holy sounded better. In this situation, though, I found that I preferred the vinyl version. I felt that the guitars felt a little bit warmer. There was more treble here on the CD, but it also felt a little more brittle. And once again, I want to say this is by comparison. I think this CD sounds really good, but when I had the chance to A/B them, I felt that the guitars just had a nicer presence, no pun intended, to them. I also felt that the soundscape was more expansive on the LP. On the CD, everything just felt very clumped together, like kind of like this, all the instruments, all the instrumentation. Whereas on the LP, it felt like it had a little more room to breathe. It just felt more expansive sounding. Songs like Achilles' Last Stand sounded just a little bit more epic. Now, I want to say this was a noticeable difference. It was not an, oh my gosh, I can't believe it difference, but it was definitely noticeable. If you have the CD, the 90s remasters, these are fine. These are great sounding, actually. They really are good. But the LP was definitely, in my opinion, a noticeable improvement. So what this is telling me here is that as far as my vinyl journey, which is, like I said, I'm still new to all this, as far as my vinyl journey is concerned, when it comes to vinyl, I need to seek out vintage Led Zeppelin. And that's what I'm going to do. I should mention that when I was a teenager, of course, LPs were the dominant format. We had cassette tapes, we had 8 tracks, but LPs were still the dominant format. But it wasn't that long into my music buying experience that the CD came along. And when that happened, we all just went to CDs and eventually just ditched our records. Of course, most of us were just kids. I was just a high school kid. When I was buying LPs, it was after I graduated from high school that the CD came along, and we were all playing our LPs on cheap stereo systems. We didn't know any better. So yeah, CDs definitely sounded like an improvement, and of course they didn't develop the pops and clicks that records could. Of course, if you take good care of a record, you don't have to worry about that too much anyways. At any rate though, so yeah, I definitely found the LP, this 70s LP, to be superior to my CD version. I just thought it was a better experience, but the CD still sounds really great in my opinion. Now, while I was doing this, I decided to do one other comparison. I'm going to put this in later. It's being difficult. I decided to check out Led Zeppelin's Physical Graffiti. Now, quite a while ago, back when these were first being re-released, I did pick up the LP version of Physical Graffiti. This is the recent re-release. Once again, these are the 21st century remasters here. I picked it up, even though I wasn't real thrilled with the more recent remasters. I did pick up this copy of Physical Graffiti, mainly just because it's just one of my favorite Led Zeppelin albums. I've always had a real soft spot for this one here. And I thought, okay, you're just going to get this anyways. And I thought the LP sounded really good. I did compare it to my CD version here. And unlike the Houses of the Holy album, I felt that these two were very closely matched when I compared them back then. And I felt that maybe this was just a teeny bit better than my 90s CD remaster. But a lot of time has passed since then. And since then, I've upgraded my turntable, I've upgraded my speakers, and I said to myself, let's try this again. Let's listen to both of these. And I compared them back and forth to each other, and my opinion is still kind of the same. This does sound, for whatever reason, a little bit better than this. Not a huge difference, but a little bit better. At any rate, if you've got the CDs, if you've got the 90s CDs, and even if you've got the 2014s, if that's what you've got, they all sound good in my opinion. None of them sound like terrible. And I kind of have to wonder, is Jimmy Page just pulling a real con job on all of us with the more recent remasters? Because again, I never really felt that there was any like big oh wow improvement between the 21st century remasters and the 20th century remasters. Never felt there was a huge difference, which is why I ended up not picking them up. I listened to them all, but the only one I picked up was Coda. I picked up Led Zeppelin 3, and then later on got rid of it because once again, I didn't feel any real difference. I was even kind of disappointed with a lot of the bonus tracks on the remasters. There were some good bonus tracks, but none of them to me were that great. But Coda stood out because it had a wealth of bonus tracks, and I think I've talked about that before. But at any rate, though, if you've got it on CD, it still sounds great. I do have to wonder, though, if Jimmy Page was selling us some snake oil with these remasters, or then again, maybe he just got it right the first time. Maybe the Led Zeppelin albums were recorded well enough that they don't need to really have a remastering done. I mean, yeah, they had to be done the first time. Initially, when Led Zeppelin was released on CD, they just literally just transferred what was on analog tape to CD. When the 90s box sets, you may remember there were two sets that were released, two box sets released. The first one with 4 CDs, the second one with 2 CDs, which comprised the entire catalog and included a few bonus tracks. But when those were originally released, they had never been properly remastered for CD. And like I said, I think those still sound great. I still think they're great CDs. This set from the mid-2000s, from the middle part of last decade, they're sourced from the exact same audio, the 90s remasters. I just loved the packaging, the original, LP packaging, and that's why I got that. But I do have to wonder, perhaps all it is that he just got it right the first time. Anyways, let me know what you think about that. And leave a comment. As always, if you like what I do here, be sure to click like, click subscribe, hit the bell notification icon so you never miss a video. Looking forward to finding more vintage vinyl and doing more comparisons in the future. And I want to thank my patron supporters who are helping me make more videos. If you'd like to be a patron supporter and help support this channel, please go to patreon.com/TJR the original and make a monthly pledge. If you can't do that, I understand. Just click like and that'll help a lot. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all stay safe and healthy. Take care. Bye-bye.